You're not even a proper Liverpool fan. You're looking online to find out whether they played or not. Marcus will be able to tell us, won't you?
Yeah, go to Marcus.
I'm having a look now, actually.
See, you...
hermeneutically sealed over the weekend.
Once upon a time, right, Liverpool were the side, right, that everybody wanted to know about their results. Right now, nobody cares because they're not winning the league. Oh, my days. So did Liverpool play last night? All right, while we wait, we'll take a quick ad break. We'll be back in a tick.
Are you looking for a career where you can make a real difference? Where your skills and life experiences are valued, and where individuality is celebrated and innovation encouraged? From administrators, web developers and HR pros, to investigators, call handlers and PCSOs, at Avon and Somerset Police, we employ thousands of people in different roles. We offer flexible working options, generous pensions, a childcare voucher scheme and competitive annual leave. You have the chance to think and do things differently while gaining new skills and unrivaled experience. Whether you're looking for a change in career, returning to work or just starting out, we may have the role for you. This is a career like no other, and no matter what role you're in, you have the opportunity to make a difference. Be inspired, be valued, be the difference. For more information, search Avon and Somerset Police Jobs.
So, welcome back. It is BCFM Radio's One Love Breakfast. Marcus Cole, Tim Hinson and Ivan Jackson. There's no point in asking Ivan, did Liverpool play over the weekend? Or maybe we should. Maybe he's got all the information and he's a secret football lover. I don't know. Who should I go to? Marcus Cole. Did Liverpool play over the weekend?
No, they didn't, because it was the FA Cup and also the Premier League games that were played over the weekend were games that were in hand for those teams, so it gave them to catch up with everyone else. So Liverpool have got a couple of weeks off because it's European qualifiers this week as well. So, yeah.
Okay. And
no Liverpool.
Ivan, were you excited by the rugby and the football over the weekend? Did you manage to get anything done? Were you glued to the TV screens? And indeed, did you have Sky Sports, BBC One, other channels on? You would have been able to have FA Cup football. You'd have been able to see rugby. You'd have been able to see Premier League football as well. And, of course, the netball was on too. Team Bath. Were you excited, Ivan?
Well, you know what? If I'd have only known that all that was out there and available to me, I'd have dashed back inside. The weather was so nice over the weekend that I spent most of it in the garden. And why didn't you text me and tell me it was all on pack? Because you know me, I'd have been in there as quick as anything, and I'd be sat glued to it all. But unfortunately, I missed out on the whole lot.
We've got the Euros coming up, all right, in the summer. So what you need to do is get some kind of projection, right, or large screen in the garden area, which means that rather than be in a house, and I'm not saying, but a house of, children and women running around, I could be at yours drinking cocktails and looking at the big screen and watching plenty of football. And then I think, I'm feeling hot. I'm just going to run down into the sea. How about that?
Yeah, you've always got an open invitation, but of course, COVID restrictions mean that you are going to have to stay in the house with women and children.
No. Listen, the Euros are in July, mate. Okay.
July. Okay. Oh, yes, we should all be free by then.
This is after this date.
If Europe behaves itself. Yeah.
So everyone, listen.
I'll pop it in the diary.
Thank you very much indeed. Now, if you've just tuned in, it is BCFM Radio. We're live on our Bristol Television YouTube channel, and we're also live on Facebook as well. This is ahead of Wednesday's mayoral debates, the hustings that are going to take place live at 8:30, not only on FM and DAB and online, but they're also going to be visual for you as well on our Bristol Television YouTube channel and Facebook Live as well. Before we hit the news, Ivan's got the list of candidates that are going to be appearing on Wednesday at 8:30.
Indeed, of course. We've got the four major party candidates appearing in the hustings. So we've got Marvin Rees, who is the Labour incumbent. Obviously, he's currently Mayor of Bristol, so he'll be joining the hustings alongside Dr. Caroline Gooch, and she is the Liberal Democrat candidate. Sandy Hoa Ruthven is the Green candidate, and Alistair Watson is the Conservative candidate for elected Bristol Mayor. So all four major party candidates will be joining us live right here on the One Love Breakfast, and of course on our Bristol Television YouTube channel and Facebook Live as well, for an hour and a half of scintillating questions and answers, hopefully, for the duration there. And I think it's going to be really, really exciting.
Thanks very much indeed, Ivan. It will be. And as I say, you've got an opportunity to put your comments and potentially some questions as well. You've got probably till close of play tomorrow, all right? So 60777, start your text with BCFM if you want to send a text. Or if you want to send an email, studio@bcfmradio.com. It's news time.
Live from the BCFM studios in inner city Bristol, on your mobile, online, DAB and on FM. This is the One Love Breakfast News.
And with your independently produced news headlines, let's join Tin Hinson.
There were riots over the police and crime bill in central Bristol last night. Vaccine tensions have continued with the EU, and UE researchers have made living bricks to stop climate change.
The One Love Breakfast.
There were scenes of rioting in central Bristol last night as protests against the police crime bill escalated as night fell. Police dogs, horses and pepper spray were used, and an unattended police van was set on fire. Matthew Tosh has a report from the cleanup.
I'm standing outside number 1 Bridewell Street in the city centre, and there is a massive clean-up operation. Street cleaning teams have been in place ever since the riots broke up overnight. Steam cleaning the sides of the buildings, removing lots of graffiti and removing the debris from the streets. What was a scene of riot vans last night has now been replaced by a plethora of media wagons and road sweepers as the city counts the cost of what happened overnight. Matthew Tosh, One Love Breakfast News.
EU leaders are debating an export ban as they attempt to speed up the rollout of vaccines within the bloc. However, British officials are warning that a ban could potentially cause delays to Britain's programme of up to 2 months because of a lack of manufacturing capacity. The decision will be made at a meeting of EU 27 leaders on Thursday. Researchers at UE have been showcasing what they call living bricks, which they say could revolutionise our housing. The bricks use microbial fuel cell technology to generate power and at the same time act as smart displays. The scientists say that by providing electricity and clean water, they could eliminate the need for big fossil fuel networks. So only Bristol Bears won this weekend out the Bristol sports team. Bears left it late though to maintain their lead at the top of the Gallagher Premiership in winning 24-23 at Worcester Warriors. Both City and Rovers lost by 2-0. City have now lost 5 on the bounce in terms of home matches, and Rovers have dropped into the relegation zone in League One.
Traffic and travel in association with bristolcarbuyer.co.uk. The hassle-free way to sell your car.
So we've got very slow traffic on the bottom of Old Market this morning. It's a new entry in our worst road in Bristol competition. Elsewhere, the worst of the delays now clearing up in terms of the M32 and Fishponds Road, and the Portway is looking pretty clear as well. If you spot anything else we should be covering, you can give us a text 60777, start your message BCFM.
Zakia, what you like with your National Giant outdoor bread?
Then I must jerk chicken, jerk pork or corned beef, but nothing no nice like tin mackerel and bread.
What about with porridge or egg and plantain?
When me wanna do now for a slice of National Giant hard-o.
So you never know it's a National Giant outdoor bread seller England. Straight to the shop now, me I go pick up few. One alone just nah do.
No bread no nice like National. Now we get a slice of yard, even abroad.
Straight from JA to the UK, National Giant Hardo Bread, the real Jamaican giant. Now available at select shops locally. Just ask in store.
The weather with BristolDiversityAwards.co.uk.
A dry and cloudy start for most of us this morning, feeling breezy with some brighter spells moving in later on this afternoon. Highs of 12 degrees Celsius. That's your One Love update. More in half an hour.
Thank you very much indeed, gentlemen, Marcus and Tin.
The music you want, the information you need. This is the One Love Breakfast.
It is indeed the One Love Breakfast right here on Bcfm Radio 93.2 or on DAB. Available through your smart speaker as well. I can't talk this morning. I think it's the TV cameras everywhere. Ivan Jackson, Tin Hinson and Marcus Cole are with us this morning. And of course, it's the morning where we've woken up to riots, disturbances, whatever you want to call them. Maybe in 10 years' time, people will call them an uprising against the Kill the Bill movement. I don't know, but Priti Patel and the government are certainly using these disturbances, these riots, as even more reason to increase, or decrease, I should say, our freedoms here in Bristol and the UK. Should you have a right to peaceful protest? Is pulling a statue down the same as smashing up police vehicles and setting them alight? Tin, Ivan and Marcus are here to discuss all of that this morning on the One Love Breakfast, live on our Bristol Television YouTube channel and indeed on Facebook Live as well. Ivan, let's kick off with you this morning. It wasn't waking up to the news, Ivan. It was seeing it last night. I was on like a little celebration online Zoom thing when one of the lads said, have you seen what's going on in Bristol tonight? I was aware of the protests, very peaceful protests, attended by people who quite rightly weren't interested and wanted to oppose this new government legislation. How did it all go so wrong, Ivan?
Well, you know what, Pat? I think before we even get into this, I think it's really important that we sort of like stand back and try and take all the facts in. Because if you remember, just a few days ago in Clapham Common, everybody was very, very quick to point the finger at the police force as the way they handled the situation at that vigil that took place. But actually, when you buried down and looked into what actually happened, it turned out that actually only a very few people were dealt with harshly, quote unquote, by the police, and for reasons that they explained. So in the same way as you look at what happened in Bristol, I think it's important to note that in all likelihood that the more violent aspects that took place last night were as a result of a very, very small minority of people. It's very, very easy, and actually this is what a lot of media companies do, including the BBC. They'll put a camera on a burning police car, and when you see that, and when all the focus is on that area, it can look very, very disturbing. In fact, if you're tuned into our video footage that's going out, that has been going out this morning since 9 o'clock, you will have noticed during the news, we use some of that footage as well, and it does illustrate what went on, but it only picks out those highlights. And I think it's important that the way the media presents things kind of registers in our brains, and it is important to take, as I say, to take a step back, and I think it'll be interesting to find out, like, out of any arrests that have been made, we've not been told how many people were arrested last night, how many of those people A, were from the Bristol area, B, were already known to the police service as having prior convictions for various different crimes, and C, overall, what actually happened. We know that up until about 6 o'clock in the evening, everything was relatively peaceful. It was noisy, but it was good spirited. And I think most people in the city have a lot of respect for our local police force, Avon and Somerset Police, partially due to the way that they handled the Colston statue toppling. So we know that people have a lot of respect for our local police force. So it strikes me as odd that local people would be involved in the violent acts that we saw last night. That's my own take.
Thank you, Ivan, for that. So if you have just woken up and you've missed everything, yesterday thousands of people joined a protest which police had strongly advised against attending. Crowds descended on College Green in Bristol for the Kill the Bill demonstration, following similar gatherings around the UK in opposition to the police and crime bill. Many attendees in Bristol wore face masks and carried placards with slogans such as "Say No to UK Police State." Freedom to protest is fundamental to democracy, and kill the bill. Police had encouraged people to stay away from the city centre and attend virtual protests instead. So we're talking about our thoughts on the police and crime bill, as well as what happened last night. The police, crime, sentencing and courts bill, which groups together a range of changes to enforcement and sentencing in England and Wales, passed its second reading. The First Chance MPs got to vote on a proposed law by 359 to 263 votes. Now, how will the bill change those powers? Police chiefs are going to be able to put more conditions on static protests. So they'll be able to, for example, impose a start and finish time, set noise limit, apply these rules to demonstrations by just one person. So taken to an extreme, let's say there's an individual holding a protest placard whilst blasting out their views on a speaker. If they refuse to follow the police directions over how they should conduct their protests, they could be fined up to £2,500. It will also become a crime to fail to follow restrictions the protesters ought to have known about, even if they'd not received a direct order from an officer. At present, police need to prove protesters knew they'd been told to move on before they can said to have been breaking the law. That won't be the case anymore. The proposed law includes an offence of intentionally or recklessly causing a public nuisance. This is designed to stop people occupying public spaces, hanging off bridges, gluing themselves to windows, or employing other protest tactics to make themselves both seen and heard. One final measure clarifies that damage to memorials could lead to up to 10 years in prison. This follows the toppling of a statue of a slave trader. Don't need to know his name, you all know it, here in Bristol. So far-reaching changes in this bill. Tin Hinson was there yesterday for early parts of the day and left earlier in the programme while we were on FM radio only. Tin was talking about understanding why this happens, and when people have no hope, they push to riot. And I guess we can look back in history and say, actually, the public have rioted in the past, and laws have been changed. Is this different, or is it the same? Tin, continue a point that you made this morning, maybe with an introduction, if you could.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, Pat, I was there during the day yesterday. Very bad journalistic instincts. I left just as it was all kicking off. And we can say all the stuff that always gets trotted out, the very important caveats. Yes, the vast majority of the protest was peaceful. Yes, it was calm through the day. Lots of the narrative about who did what, who started it, or whatever will be contested. I recommend people who are interested to follow Alon Avrim on Twitter, the Bristol Cable's editor. But beyond all that, I'm not going to deny that people broke the rules last night, and no doubt people will be prosecuted for their involvement. When there was rioting in 2011, the courts stayed up all night and people ended up getting serious jail time. The thing is that the people who did this want a revolution. They don't believe that there's a possibility of getting change within the system. And riots are what happens in those circumstances. It's almost a rule of history. So the police and crime bill, which is being debated now, would not only threaten protest organisers with up to 10 years in prison, it also contains clauses that would persecute the traveller community and threaten them with jail time as well. I really think it's not hyperbole to say that this is an attack on democracy. And it was John F. Kennedy, the American president, who said that those who make peaceful revolution impossible will make violent revolution inevitable. So I guess my message would be is if people don't like to see these scenes on the streets of Bristol, which none of us do, then the answer isn't to crack down harder. The answer is to strengthen our democracy and actually make it so that we've actually got a functioning democracy and
Tim,
not this peerage nonsense.
I get so much of what you're saying apart from the last bit, because what the last bit says is, in a situation like this, when we do live in a democracy, smashing up police vehicles is the answer. And if, of course, that's a means to an end and the law changes and we don't have this new bill, then, in retrospect, we can look back and say, do you know what, that worked. But I don't think it will work. A mayor, Marvin Rees, made a statement as well. I think Ivan Jackson should have that statement to hand. And I think it's important as well that some of the other local news channels they've used bits of the statement, but they haven't read the statement out in its entirety. And I think out of respect, we should do that so that it can be put in context. Ivan.
Yeah, so yesterday the mayor put out a statement, and it says, he said, the violence and damage that have emerged from today's protests are unacceptable and have nothing to do with the real work we are doing to tackle political, economic and social inequality. I recognise the frustrations with the police crime and sentencing and courts bill. I have major concerns about the bill myself, which is poorly thought out and could impose disproportionate controls on free expression and the right to peaceful protest. It also misses as much as it includes, such as measures that could reduce violence against women and girls. We will raise our concerns. Smashing buildings in our city centre, vandalising vehicles, attacking our police will do nothing to lessen the likelihood of the bill going through. On the contrary, the lawlessness on show will be used as evidence and promotes the need for the bill. This is a shameful day in an incredible year for Bristol. We faced times of great confrontation, particularly surrounding Black Lives Matter and the events that followed. We have had numerous protests. Our police, city representatives, and I have been able to point out with pride that we have faced these moments of conflict without the physical conflict that others have experienced. Those who decided to turn today's protest into a physical confrontation and smash our city have robbed us of this. What they have done has more to do with self-gratification than it has to do with the protection and advancement of those of us from communities most likely to be marginalised and mistreated by our political and legal systems. For 5 years, Bristol has built homes, fed its families, prioritised mental health, recruited Black and Asian magistrates, organised work experience for our young people who are least likely to be able to get it. We've addressed poverty and introduced a whole new city approach to welcome in and support refugees and asylum seekers. That's what matters. That is what makes a difference. Smashing buildings, injuring police officers and burning cars will do nothing to support the children experiencing digital exclusion or the women, men and children looking for refuge from domestic violence and abuse. Speaking as someone himself and whose brothers and sisters, along with our poorest communities, would be disproportionately likely to receive injustice, today's actions do nothing to bring us closer to justice. So those are the words that Marvin Rees put out yesterday as a response to that those violence happenings that went on in Bristol city centre last night.
Thank you very much indeed for that, Ivan.
Lots to take in.
Yeah. Lots to take in, and I think it's important that we read out the full statement too. Marcus Cole, you've heard the words of our current mayor shortly to go into elections. How do you see this? Does he have a point that it's done nothing to support and help those that actually the bill seeks to marginalise even further by, protesting is one thing, sitting in. Civil disobedience is another thing. But when criminal damage comes in such a way that, for me and many others around the world, these pictures of Bristol have been beamed around the world, does that do anything to help our cause? What do you think about it?
It doesn't look good, does it? And I think you're quite right. I don't think it really does help the cause in any way, really. I mean, we had peaceful protests during the day, and then something obviously happened, which we're not too clear about at the moment, but something's triggered off these riots, and it doesn't look good. People have been protesting during the day against the bill in a peaceful manner, and then in the evening it just turned ugly, and it sort of demonstrates that maybe the government have got a point, and it's a shame, really. I mean, I'm a proud Bristolian. I love my city, but things like that, it just upsets me in a certain way where there are ways, different and more peaceful ways of getting your point across.
Okay. Tin, let's come back to you. So Marcus, a proud Bristolian, supportive of so much of what we do and what we talk about on the One Love Breakfast in terms of equality and access to education, access to fairness. But it upsets him, as it does thousands of other Bristolians, to see these scenes. Now, I know that you're not defending the violence or condoning it, but you're kind of saying, from what I understand, is that, look, this is what happens. Now, I also get that. When people become frustrated, they feel that they have no alternative but to be civilly disobedient. But do you take the point that maybe some of these people involved weren't even from Bristol? There are activists that came in that wanted to make a scene, and they haven't helped our cause in the slightest. I mean, how do you respond to that and a number of other points?
Well, I mean, it's possible that the people from outside, I mean, there were protests happening in lots of cities across the UK, so I'm not entirely sure why people would sort of specifically come to Bristol. I guess what I would say is that looking at it, we just got to sort of consider our response to it. We don't have... It's not beholden on us to feel good about seeing those scenes of burning and, the police vans being set on fire and this sort of thing. And it's very easy of us to make a sort of moral condemnation. But the point is, if we want to stop things like that happening, you have to give people some hope. These are people that feel like there's no possibility of change within the system. And that is the reason why these riots happened. I mean,
let me just stop you for a second, right? That could be my uncle or someone's brother or dad or mum or son standing there as a police officer, right? Getting bottles thrown at them, having fireworks. What we're talking about here, we're not talking about... We've had issues with police in the past, and we've had issues with police tactics where they've gone in a heavy-handed way. This looked like, from all that I could see and from the people that I know that I've spoken to were there, this looks like deliberate attacking of Bridewell Police Station as a figurehead, because it's the Law and Order bill, and maybe people taking literally kill the bill, right? This looks like deliberate damage and harm to those people, as though they're not even human beings. And where I stop, I'm happy to attend a protest. I'm happy to, try and support civil rights, however, and our human rights. However, do you not think it's a step too far to say, well, actually, yeah, I understand why people wanted to throw bottles at the police. I understand why we wanted to smash a police van and set it alight. Yeah, that's cool. Because to me, I must admit, we've got to draw a line somewhere as to what type of behaviour that we're prepared to see happen? What type of behavior are we prepared for our children to be involved in? Is that really what we want to teach them is the best way to make change for the future? And that's the thing that upsets me, and I think probably Marcus and many other people.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's the best way to create change. What I'm saying is, like, if people don't like rioting, which, you know, none of us do, then we've got to be smart, you know, how you actually stop it. And you don't stop it just by condemning it, and you certainly don't stop it by bringing in these sort of draconian rules, which, by the way, had nothing to do with what happened last night. There's already you know, lots of laws that were broken already. There's, you know, there's nothing new that's needed here. What I'm saying is that when you repress people, when you push people, when people feel like they've got no hope, then it is an iron law of history that a certain proportion of people, a minority, yes, will react in this kind of way. I mean, we saw it with in Minneapolis last year when the Black Lives Matter protesters burnt down a police station there. And I think it's easy with a bit of distance from that, sort of looking across the pond in America, to sort of understand the chain of cause and effect there. And it's sometimes a little bit harder to see it when it is within our own city, because, yeah, of course, we're emotional about seeing things like this, and we're you know, maybe a little bit embarrassed. That's something that people have talked about feeling like this sends a bad image of Bristol to the rest of the country. But yeah, I think we've just got to be a bit smart and a bit empathetic about it, and understand the reasons why this happened.
Tin, I'm sorry, and maybe it's just me, right? And I don't want to do a peers or anything like that, but what I'm saying is maybe we have got to be a bit smart. But smashing up police cars and police vans that we pay for, smashing up the local police station, chucking bottles. You see, if the police had come out and the police had attacked the protesters with batons in such a major way, you can understand an uprising. You know, if somebody had been murdered in broad daylight by a police officer, you can understand the uprising, right? However, for me, I think it's really, really different. And my point is that whilst I applaud a peaceful demonstration that would have been socially distanced, I hope, to oppose this bill, because you're absolutely right, draconian, wrong on every level. I absolutely, with every beat of my heart, oppose this legislation. I really do. But actually, if we're being intelligent about it, is that really the right way to get the country and the politicians on our side? I don't believe that it is. And I think because of what happened last night and in other places around the country, it will make this bill happen even quicker, because it will be the propaganda will go in all of the mainstream newspapers and everywhere else to encourage the government to get this done quickly and expedite it. And that's what worries me. Ivan, I know that you haven't got very long, and you've got to leave us shortly. Let's just close off on this for now, because I know we've got to take the news as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's the whole big irony, isn't there? That this was supposed to be a demonstration against the changes to peaceful protests, and of course, it wasn't a peaceful protest at the end of the day. Tin mentioned the fireworks. Now, those fireworks were thrown into the crowd. What kind of person or people would throw fireworks into a crowd that were demonstrating? It just does not make sense to me. I'd also like to leave you with this question, Pat. Where has this police and crime bill come from? Who's made it up? Obviously, the Home Secretary is very much behind it. Has she consulted with her senior civil servants about it? I would love to know how much toing and froing has gone on between members of the senior civil service and Priti Patel as to the content of this wide-reaching bill.
Sure.
I've got a feeling it's not very much, but there you go. That's just a feeling in my waters. But I'd like an answer to that question. So there you go. You know what? If you want to demonstrate, please do. And I think it's really, really important that we all maintain that right. There's some horrible things going on in that bill as well. We can expect lots of amendments coming up as it gets batted backwards and forwards between the Commons and the Lords. And let's just hope that there are lots and lots of amendments to it before it goes through.
Ivan Jackson, thank you very much indeed for joining us and on this very special One Love Breakfast, where we've been live on YouTube and Facebook Live as well. Ivan Jackson, everyone. Now, before we hit the news, we are on this roadmap to freedom, so everybody tells us. Do you remember festivals? Do you remember when we used to go to a field and have a laugh and do stuff? Well, a couple of years ago, Bcfm were the media partner for the One Love Festival. Let's have a very quick look back at what that was like.
Sorry, Mr. Bossman, Mr. Bossman. Sorry, Mr. Bossman, Mr. Bossman. I'm so sorry, yeah. Sorry, Mr. Bossman, Mr. Bossman. Sorry, Mr. Bossman. Sorry, Mr. Bossman, Mr. Bossman. Oh, yeah. I'm in the mood for taking my time, my time. I'm in the mood to free my mind. There's got to be a time for relaxing, when you had a very hard day. So I'll find a place quiet for me to close my eyes to meditate, to take the pressures from my mind, so that my body can unwind.
Oh, my days. I'm just thinking of festivals now. And guess what? It might happen. Let's take the news.
Live from the BCFM studios in Inner City, Bristol. On your mobile, online, DAB and on FM. This is the One Love Breakfast News.
And for the final time this morning, bringing us bang up to date with his independently produced news headlines, here's Tin Hinson.
Riots over police and crime bill in central Bristol. Ex-Prime Minister texts Rishi Sunak over loans. And UE researchers make living bricks to stop climate change.
The One Love Breakfast.
There were scenes of rioting in central Bristol last night as protests against the police crime bill escalated as night fell. Police dogs, horses and pepper spray were used and an unattended police van was set on fire. Matthew Tosh has a report from the cleanup.
I'm standing outside number 1 Bridewell Street in the city centre, and there is a massive clean-up operation. Street cleaning teams have been in place ever since the riots broke up overnight. Steam cleaning the sides of the buildings, removing lots of graffiti and removing the debris from the streets. What was a scene of riot vans last night has now been replaced by a plethora of media wagons and road sweepers as the city counts the cost of what happened overnight. Matthew Tosh, One Love Breakfast News.
The ex-Prime Minister David Cameron has been shown to have been lobbying the Chancellor Rishi Sunak on behalf of Greensill Capital, who he is a shareholder in. The ex-PM texted Sunak multiple times in April 2020 in hopes of gaining access to cheap 100% government-backed loans through the COVID corporate financing facility. Greensill Capital wanted to spin these into loans to their customers. Researchers at UE have been showcasing what they call living bricks, which they say could revolutionise our housing. The bricks use microbial fuel cell technology to generate power and at the same time act as smart displays. The scientists say that by providing electricity and clean water, they could eliminate the need for big fossil fuel networks. So in sport, only Bristol Bears won this weekend. Bears left it late though to maintain their lead at the top of the Gallagher Premiership, winning 24-23 at Worcester Warriors. Both Bristol City and Bristol Rovers lost by 2 goals to 0. City have now lost 5 consecutive home matches, and Rovers have dropped into the relegation zone in League One. And in snooker, the world number 1, Judd Trump from Bristol, has won the Gibraltar Open, beating Cheltenham's Jack Lisowski by 4 frames to 0.
Traffic and travel in association with bristolcarbuyer.co.uk. The hassle-free way to sell your car.
So the worst of the congestion now over in Bristol. However, we are getting slow traffic going up the Muller Road and also up Ashley Hill out of Montpellier there. So that is the worst road in Bristol at 9:30 this morning. If you spot anything else we should be covering, give the text 60777, start your message, BCFM.
The weather with bristoldiversityawards.co.uk.
Dry and cloudy start for most of us this morning, feeling breezy with some brighter spells moving in later on this afternoon, highs of 12 degrees Celsius. That's your One Love update. More news from the breakfast team tomorrow morning.
Thank you very much indeed, Marcus, and indeed, Tin.
The information you need. This is the One Love Breakfast.
Yes, indeed it is. It's the One Love Breakfast. Let's have a look, 36 minutes past 9 o'clock on Monday, the 22nd of March, 2021. This morning, we've had Ivan Jackson in our virtual studio. He's now gone. But we have got Tin Hinson and we have Marcus Cole. I was going to say Marcus Smith was this morning, but he used to be on Mondays. Maybe he'll be back very soon. We're live on YouTube.
He might be.
And we're on a Facebook Live as well. So you'll be rid of me, Marcus, very soon. So a couple of little bits to just get us up to date. At the 16th Annual Pennsylvania Institute of Urban Research International Urban Leadership Forum, Bristol Mayor Marvin Rees, alongside Yvonne Aki-Sawyer, Mayor of Freetown in Sierra Leone, are to be given awards for mayoral leadership in challenging times at the forum next month. Marvin Rees was sworn in as Mayor of Bristol in 2016, as we know, becoming the first person of African Caribbean descent to be elected mayor of a major European city, with a commitment to creating a fairer and more inclusive city. His priorities, tackling Bristol's housing crisis, building more homes, etc., have been recognised by this institute. Quick question, is it important? I mean, timing just before an election, but then, of course, this is an international institute. Somebody from Freetown in Sierra Leone also being given awards as well. Tin, let's go to you. Is this important that we report on this and mark the fact that somebody has received worldwide recognition for their work in our city?
It is interesting. I think it's, I don't think it's a story that we should be leading with, which we haven't. But it is interesting to see how Marvin is perceived abroad. Obviously, it's a specific, it's a university in America that's providing this award. So it sort of shows that the trajectory that Marvin is taking the city on has impressed the academics that work at this particular university. That's not to say it would impress everybody worldwide or even everyone in Bristol, but it is applauded that he's been given here.
Okay, all right. Said like a true
how to say something while saying nothing at all.
Yeah, non-party political position. How about you, Marcus? Your thoughts on that? I guess for me, well, I'll tell you what I think in a minute. But Marcus, tell us, give us your thoughts on this. An accolade, a worldwide accolade for somebody in our city.
I mean, I think it's it's massive recognition, isn't it? Globally as well, it puts Bristol massively on the map, and it's a great achievement to what Marvin Rees has done for the city over the last few years. So, I mean, I've really never heard of this accolade before, but I think it's something that Marvin should be proud of, and Bristol as well.
Okay. For me, I think people like Marvin and Cleo Lake and Asher Craig and others in our city, I think it's just positive that there are people that look like me, maybe, or look like us. And for years and years, we've been saying that politicians don't represent our communities. And more, politicians are beginning to represent us. And when I say the first thing is, for children growing up, we want people to look like us. At one stage, we look at these hereditary peers, all men, right? How about for our young girls and women growing and being educated, that have political aspirations? Surely we need people that look like them as well, not just women, black women. And then we could go on across the strands of diversity. So I think in that point, it's really, really important. Should we be doing some water facts this morning, or should we talk about sport? Let me see. Oh, let's do sport. So, Marcus, go first. I'll find the water facts shortly. But Marcus, just talk us through the FA Cup over the weekend. And I don't think Tin Hinson will think anything of it, to be fair. His mighty Liverpool weren't involved, so I'm not sure. Tin, did you watch any of the... there was free-to-air stuff on the BBC over the weekend, and there was stuff on Sky and stuff as well. Did you watch any of it?
You know what? I feel like my viewing of football has been cursed recently. Like, every time I've watched a match, it's ended up 0-0 or 1-0 or something like that. I would have watched Leicester Man United if I'd known what a great game it was going to be.
No, it was rubbish, mate. It was absolute garbage. You didn't miss a thing. They were cheated. I tell you what was a good match, Marcus.
With the cheated 3 times.
Yes.
Yeah, something like that. Was the Arsenal game, the Arsenal-West Ham game. West Ham leading by three goals to nil. It was on Sky, and Arsenal,
after about 30 minutes as well.
And Arsenal
it was a league game. It was a league game, not FA Cup. It was one of those games that needed to be a catch-up game. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. There were 2 goals within the first 15 minutes, and then West Ham just totally controlled and bossed the game for the first 30 minutes. They let Arsenal back in the last quarter of an hour of the first half, with Lacazette getting the goal back from an own goal from the West Ham midfielder Souček, who actually scored the 3rd goal for West Ham as well. In the first half. And the second half again, Arsenal, they just came out and really, really played well. And saying that, West Ham could have gone 4-2 up when Antonio hit the post with a ball driving across the 6-yard box, and he was there stretching his left peg out, but unfortunately, he hit the post. But yeah, fair play to Arsenal. It showed that they've got a bit of character.
Absolutely.
And they've played well in the last few games. They really have.
Yeah, I've got a couple of Arsenal fans are sending me texts through this morning. But just
I bet they are. Yeah.
Let's go football aside for a moment. One of the texts we've had in says peaceful demos win over people, but as soon as we turn it violent, then that feeds right into the hands we are protesting against. Mindless few, as always. And do you know what? I am not going to let people make me feel guilty for agreeing with that and actually saying, do you know what? It's always going to be different people's call and opinion about when do we have to become violent? When do we need to push over the edge? And, I saw us last night. There wasn't a need to push over the edge. And I agree with the texter. Tin's going to feel as though he's on the defence every time. So when I understand. But just saying.
Sorry, go on.
No, go on, Tin. Go on.
I mean, I'm making my comments in the context that there is plenty of condemnation to be found everywhere across the whole media, and do
you have condemnation?
I'm not saying I don't understand it. I do understand the condemnation.
But do you have condemnation as to the violence against our police and against property last night? Do you condemn it?
I mean, it's not something that I would personally engaging, and I don't like to see it. I don't like to see that happening, but my position is that if you don't want to see this sort of thing happening, then you have to understand why it happens. And I don't think it's completely mindless. I think I think it may well be a mistake in terms of tactics,
right?
That sort of things. But I think the people who've done it are beyond that point of thinking about tactics. I spoke to people last night. I don't know if they went on to be involved in the sort of violent parts of the clashes, but I spoke to travellers who were in tears while they were speaking to me, because this bill is going to criminalise their whole way of life. It's going to break up their communities. These are people who have completely lost faith in the ability of politics to change anything. So I don't think they're really thinking about how is this perceived? What's the tactical thing or whatever? It's gone beyond that point. And I think that's a real problem for society. I think that's what we need to address. We need to look at the root causes of this.
But we've got, we've had elections, right? We've got a Conservative government who are making these laws. We've got local elections, mayoral elections, police and crime commissioner elections. And my big worry is that we've got people standing in the roles for police crime commissioner. Some are, if you like, establishment choices. Others are quite different choices. We've got the opportunity to go to the ballot and change stuff, right? And we seem to fail again and again and again if people want to change stuff. And I just think there are things that happen that I don't agree with. There are a massive amount of things that happen that I don't agree with. And as a member of the global majority, look at the colour of my skin, I've been on the wrong end of it, both from law enforcement, not just once or twice, but 20, 30, 40 times. I've lost out. I've been abused physically. However, there are choices I make as to how I'm going to exercise my right. And I just think sometimes that we're making the wrong decisions and we're not helping anybody and we're not teaching our kids. So yes, I condemn. I condemn the violence against, because if something happens to me tomorrow, I'm going to phone the police. I'm going to phone the police. And I want the police to come and help me. And I know that the police are not perfect because they represent the society in which I live, and society is not perfect, but I do respect the police. And I know it's not the police, it's the government that are asking the police to carry out these things, not the police themselves. And I think it comes from central government, and I think that we need to get a little bit smarter and not carrying on smashing the place up. Listen, let's take a very quick break. We're going to... we got to play a bit of video. So we're going to have a look on how to make a Carib Asian puff patty in 60 seconds.
Carib Asian puff patties.
You'll need a pound of minced lamb.
Add 2 tablespoons of curry powder, 1 tablespoon of lamb seasoning, and mix it up in a bowl.
Then chop onions, garlic, ginger and coriander and fry that in olive oil.
Add some all-purpose seasoning and then add some lamb mixture.
Cook this through and then cool down.
Roll out and cut 2 sheets of puff pastry.
And make up the patties using milk and egg to seal them.
Press a fork down on the edges.
Put in a grease-proof pan and then in the oven for 30 minutes.
Take out and serve with a garnish. Carib Asian puff patties.
If you want to try some of Pat and Sherry's recipes at home, the Carib Asian cookery book, Recipes in Rhymes, is out now. Available online and from all good bookstores.
So I just want to tell you that no radio presenters were harmed in the making of that short video. So there you go. And managed to get a little advert in there as well. Now, we are talking football. It is BCFM Radio's One Love Breakfast. We'll go back to Tin in a minute. I feel that you're under attack, but don't worry. The only attack we're going to talk about now, is football. So the rest of the FA Cup. Marcus, what I was watching yesterday, I was thinking, do you know what? Man United, all you got to do is you got to beat Leicester. And then you got Southampton. Oh, what a great kind of like, what a great route to the final. And Man City then have got to play Chelsea, which will be an amazing game because Chelsea are on form. What a final that will be. Little did I think, there's my arrogance, right? Little did I think that lowly Leicester were awesome against Manchester United. And I don't think we don't need to do a post-mortem about it. Just Man United were terrible. But even if Man United were average or good, Leicester were better. Leicester were completely and totally committed in the high press. And that is an issue that Manchester United have. And if they don't sort it out, they'll get no further in the Europa League either. Let's talk about some of the other games. What other games in the FA Cup took your eye?
In Bournemouth and Southampton in the Southern Derby, that was a great game for Southampton. Of course, they came out 3-0 winners, and that Bournemouth they just don't look great in defence going forward. Yeah, but at the back, they really had a bad day on Saturday. Defensive mistakes letting Southampton in, and I think really Southampton, they were clinical for once, and they came out with a good victory and puts them in good stead for a really good semi-final against Leicester and a good chance to get in the final.
Okay. We're going to be doing some water facts before we close off today, by the way. In general, City and Rovers, both losses. There was excitement about the appointments of Messrs Pearson and Barton for both Bristol Rovers and Bristol City. Hasn't gone according to plan at all, has it, Marcus?
Bristol City, their home record, I believe it's their worst run at home in the club's history this season as well, to lose so many games at home. But away, it's a completely different story. They're going away and they're beating teams quite convincingly. And it just seems strange that even though with no spectators in the grounds at the moment due to the pandemic, I don't see why there is a problem at Ashton Gate, because there's no pressure there from the fans. And I just can't really put my finger on it at the moment. But yeah, it's there's still a few games to go. I think the playoffs now, they're totally out of sight. So I think City could be quite content with a mid-table finish, I think, this season.
Okay.
But Bristol Rovers...
go on.
Oh, go on.
I was going to say, Tin Hinson, a totally different subject completely. Bristol and a Premiership team. Isn't it about time that, we got Premiership rugby, we got, we haven't got a netball team for Bristol. Team Bath is the closest, but we have in rugby and basketball and so much other stuff as well. Isn't it time that we had a Premier League football club in the city? Would it make a big difference, or do you even care?
We could buy one in. We could get Cardiff. we could swap in. Who could move?
Oh, come on! Come on! How about the ones that we've got? For years, and people are going to kind of say, "How dare you say this?" But I'm going to say it again, simply because it's been said so many times. Is that people in the past spoke about merging our clubs and saying, "Do you know what? If we had one club, things would be better." I mean, I don't agree with that, simply because I just think to myself, listen, the city is big enough for 2, even 3 football clubs, and 1 or 2 of them. We got the Manchester clubs in the Premier League. Why can't Bristol have 2 as an aspiration? Tin, why haven't we got one?
You think the riots were controversial? I'm definitely not going to wade in on merging Rovers and City. That's more than my job's worth.
All right, but my point is, why haven't we got a Premiership? Is it just about investment? We've got a great kind of, Bristol Sport. We seem to have a great platform. We've got great facilities. We've almost got Premiership facilities. We've got Premiership businesses in Bristol that can help support it as well. So why are we not in the Premier League?
It just seemed to be the case that the Premier League is sort of entrenched, so the teams that are in the Premier League, if they go down, they get their parachute payments and they come back up. So it is a pretty hard job starting from where they are to actually sort of break through. I do think that once they did get into the Premier League. I mean, I guess the counter example is a team like Leeds that were in the Premier League and then dropped all the way down, and they've managed to sort of boost their way back up. But
okay.
Is there a lack of investment in it? I mean, they don't have a big
funny.
sort of outside benefactor, do they?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. So Niall says we're a rugby city. That's a reason. Amo's saying 6 consecutive losses at home. Complacency shown in certain areas of the team. If Pearson stays, he'll get rid of half of the team. All depends on the owner's ambition. Is the owner currently content with the Championship? Is there less financial risk? I mean, potentially there's bigger financial gain in the Premiership. But Marcus, is it all about the money now? Is it all about the business plan and not necessarily the football? Is that why Bristol City are still in the Championship and not the Premier League? I mean, my club, Derby, a big club, we can't do it. We're languishing around the bottom. So it's one of the hardest leagues in the whole of the world to get out of, isn't it? The Championship, in the English Championship.
It is, absolutely. It's a very, very competitive league. And like Tin says, you've got teams that are coming down from the Premier League into the Championship with the parachute payment. So they've got that investment and gives them more of a chance to get back into the Premier League. Like Norwich, they've absolutely run, they've been the best team and deservedly so, being at the top of the Championship. But regards as in investment, Steve Lansdowne, he's worth a wee bit of money, as we all know. He's self-made billionaire, and he has invested quite a lot, especially in the infrastructure around the club, as in building a new stand on the Ashton Gate Stadium. He's invested a lot into Bristol Rugby Club, and he's obviously I don't know, is he involved with the basketball side of things now as well?
Yeah,
I'm not entirely sure, but
yeah, definitely.
So
okay.
He's doing his best for Bristol sport in general, but again, it's just the Championship is so competitive, and I think that's the reason why Bristol City are where they are at the moment.
Okay. All right. I'm going to get in trouble, so I'm just going to say one thing. 68.7% of the fresh water on Earth is trapped in glaciers. There we go. There's the water facts for today. We've completely and totally run out of time. So, Tin, I would just like to say thank you very much indeed for your input. We look forward to hearing you live at 6 p.m. on BCFM for the Bristol Agenda. You and Priyanka, I'm sure there will be some insightful thoughts and interviews from people that were there yesterday in Bristol during the day, during those protests. So we look forward to that, Tin. Thank you for being with us. Marcus Cole, as always, it's a pleasure to do business with you.
It's nice to see you.
We'll catch you next Monday as well. So, everybody, remember.
I'll be here.
Excellent. This Wednesday at 8:30, it's our live mayoral hustings. The Labour Party, the Green Party, the Liberal Democrats, and the Conservative Party will all be represented. It's going to be 90 minutes of hard debate. You've got a chance to get your questions in studio at bcfmradio.com. We'll be live on the radio, on YouTube, Bristol Television, and Facebook Live as well. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. This has been Ivan, Marcus, Tin, and Patrick on the One Love Breakfast. We're going to leave you with some Bristol music and a great music video from Gardner. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.